Hey everyone, greetings. I just felt called to pop in here on my page today to offer some encouragement if you are struggling in your relationship. I was actually just talking to a colleague last week about some of our successful clients and some of the changes they were able to make and how well they're doing, and really that they were able to overcome their old patterns and truly change their default modes in relating. And that really came from the inside out. But what was clear in talking about this was there was really a common denominator, because we have different styles, different coaching styles. The clients had different approaches, but there was this common denominator among these successful clients that was a certain outlook, a certain willingness and mentality that I want to share with you today. And I share this with you really as a way of offering hope to you if you're struggling right now. And also I'm hoping that it will facilitate a shift in your thinking to help you get where you want to go. So the biggest problem that we relationship coaches see is a tendency to go back to old habits, right? In spite of the harm that this causes the relationship. And it's not a lack of knowledge. It's not a lack of information or good intentions or a lack of love or a lack of commitment. It's really just losing against the power of habit. Now, this results in a tendency to backslide, right? So people can make temporary changes, but the changes that people make in relationships without systematic change end up just being temporary. People go back to their old ways. Whether or not you call this sabotage or call it regression, you can identify it as the power of old programs, as I do. I've spoken about this, the power of limiting beliefs at the subconscious level and how important it is to change those, and those automatic responses that are conditioned and like 10 million times more powerful than your goals. But no matter how you slice it, what happens is that people end up having a massive backslide. And the consequences of this are, if you're on the brink in your relationship and you're trying to put your best foot forward, you could act in a way that would actually take down the relationship, right? You could break that last straw just because that habit kicked in a moment where you didn't have a lot of resources. It could be that you're just in a state of frustration all the time because you've read all the books, you've listened to the podcasts, you resonate with it, and you know in your gut and in your heart where you want to go, right? And you have a ton of insight. Maybe you've been to therapy, maybe you truly understand exactly how your past shaped your perceptual filters and why you react the way that you do, but you still keep reacting the same way. You still keep doing the same things, getting hooked in, getting triggered, going from 0 to 90 in 2 seconds flat. And that creates hopelessness and this feeling of being really stuck. Like, how am I ever going to do this, right? I just keep failing. You keep getting the same thing, the same dynamics, the same disconnection, and you end up either resigning yourself to be unhappy in the marriage or the relationship, or it ends up falling apart, or you end up leaving the marriage, which is not what you want. So the solution now, and I've touched on this before, it's not just, it is, you have to change those old patterns, right? That's super important. You have to change those reactions and the beliefs and all of that stuff. But what comes first is embracing the understanding that you cannot dabble your way to radical relationship change, right? It's this understanding of what that's actually going to take. And, you can't just decide, I'm going to have a great relationship now. We're working on it. We're working on it without actually putting it into daily practice. If you don't have a systematic approach, or if you're not taking consistent action virtually on a daily basis, then you're not really doing what it takes to actually change your relationship for good. So this is not something you can work on once a week for 50 minutes. This is not something that you can do in a session here or there. I'm going to have a session, and then 4 weeks later, I'm going to have another session and see how that goes. And if that goes well, I'll have another session, right? The statistics on that are clear. That does not work for most couples in crisis. And it doesn't work for most couples in general, but especially for couples in crisis. So the couples and the individuals who actually change their relationships, they're the ones that are putting it first. They're the ones that are embracing the understanding that they can't dabble their way through this, that it's going to take consistent, structured practice to gain mastery. So how I look at it is, and this is an analogy that I use, if I were going to learn snowboarding, I would never think that I could just watch a couple of videos and then go snowboarding without breaking my hip, or that I'm not going to be struggling way more than I'm having fun, at least for the first couple weeks of practicing, right? If you were going to go off dairy, for example, and maybe you've done this before, I have, you would have to plan, you'd have to prepare, you'd have to learn new recipes, you'd have to make choices to support this decision every single day, not just once a week. Or if you're training for an athletic event, or if you're trying to lose 20 pounds, you're not going to think that you can just dabble your way into getting that change and to be able to actually maintain that, right? You're not going to think that you can just read about it a couple times a week, learn something about diet. No, you're going to be taking action every single day, multiple times a day, with everything that you're eating, with everything that you're even thinking, right? Because you're not going to just be learning the skills and the information. You're likely going to be working on the mindset and the beliefs so that you can get yourself pumped up to know that you can do this, right? Because how else are we going to create something we've never had before or that we've never been able to maintain before? It really requires holding a vision beyond the feedback of our immediate environment, beyond the reactions that we're having, or beyond the messages that we're getting from the people around us. And this is Herculean effort on some days, but the people that are successful are the ones that make this a daily commitment. They set their intention, they show up every day for themselves. In fact, they're not even being sacrificed for it because they directly benefit from the foundational inner work of relationship change. That's what it takes to change a struggling relationship, and there's just no way around this. So if you're in this group because you're in a long-term relationship and you're struggling and you're in pain about it on a daily basis, then you have to set your intention not only for the relationship that you desire, but you have to carve out the mental space and the physical space each day at least, right? Multiple times a day perhaps, maybe hour to hour. You have to practice, you have to do the inner work, and that's what it's going to take in order to get the traction to turn around old patterns. So you got to stop procrastinating, and I say this with love because I'm a procrastinator, so I know how this is, but you have to stop procrastinating and ask yourself, when is now the right time, right? There's nothing more important to our well-being, to our health, to our legacy as parents than our relationship. Like, there's nothing more important. So you have to make it a priority. You have to do the belief work, set your intentions each morning, practice the skills, and carve out the time. So that's essentially my message for you today. I encourage you to do that. If you want to chat with me or one of my coaches, you can sign up using the link below. Or if you have any questions whatsoever, please comment below the video. But regardless of what path you choose, whichever route you decide to go, I just encourage you to decide now, how do you want to tighten up the reins on your relationship work and stop dabbling, because I promise you that's not what's going to work. Okay, so that's all for today. I'm sending you lots of love, and I look forward to seeing you next time.